Llywydd. Well, there can be no better illustration of the dead hand of government than this decision today, and the contrast is most instructive between what's going on an hour away from Cardiff along the M4 by James Dyson creating an international technology park, which is going to cost about between £2 and £3 billion, and our utter failure to be able to be the handmaiden of private finance for what would otherwise have been a transformational project in Ebbw Vale, a place which, goodness knows, needs every helping hand that it can get. And the member for Blaenau Gwent can make silly party political points, but I don't think they will impress his constituents, who are going to be the victims of his own government's failure of imagination today. I noticed that the Cabinet Secretary didn't actually give an answer to Adam Price a moment ago about publication of the due diligence. And I think this is absolutely vital. In fact, I think, in the presence of the Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, it's now clearly incumbent upon us to have the most wide-ranging investigation of the way in which this dismal story has unfolded over the course of the last 6 years. Are we really expected to believe that the government accounting conventions about whether something is to be classified as public expenditure or private by the ONS and the Treasury have come as a blinding revelation today or yesterday, and the Cabinet was totally unaware of these conventions hitherto? Why have we not heard this point at any stage in the past couple of years since this project has become a viable possibility in political terms? The funding structure of this project, although the numbers have changed, has been in principle the same since the start. We know that the government has never been asked to put any public money in up front. It's always been asked for a secondary contingent guarantee of private sector senior debt, which would crystallise only in circumstances when the site had been fully developed. And so what the government's liability would have been is an annual figure to refund the senior investors if the Circuit of Wales promoters were unable to pay the interest on their bonds, starting at the earliest in 2024 and ending in 2057. So we're asked to believe that we have to capitalise the whole of this expenditure today, when none of it is going to fall due until 2024, and only then on a 1/33rd basis, on a 3% per annum basis, which will actually come out of the government's annual managed expenditure. And so quite why this needs to be capitalised at this stage and then torpedo the entire project is a matter which must be regarded as the utmost seriousness. Because here, accounting conventions, rather than the substance of the project, are the weapon, the dagger which the Cabinet Secretary has plunged into the heart of the project. And the reason for that has not been explained, because it is a contingent guarantee which may never be called. Because if the racetrack were to be built and were able to pay the lenders of less than half of the cost of construction, what they're due under their current contracts, then the project would not be in danger at all, and nothing would ever come onto the government's accounts. So I'm at a total loss to understand why this possibility, which may be called upon at some future date, but only on that limited basis, should now be regarded as one big sum which could fall due immediately, because that will never happen. And therefore, what I want to know is why this issue has not been addressed hitherto between the Welsh Government and the Treasury or the Office of National Statistics, and why it is that the people of Ebbw Vale, most of all, have been led up the garden path until this side of a general election.
I'd like to thank the member for his questions. I was very clear last summer when I said that the project developers needed to ensure that 50% of the finance and 50% of the risk fell on the shoulders of the private sector to ensure that we had value for money and to ensure that it didn't come on balance sheet. And it's a due diligence process that was only completed just a few weeks ago that revealed the weighting risk. And it's because of that due diligence that we were able to discover the high risk of it coming on balance sheet. But the member, I think, is then conflating the long-term liability over 33 years and the immediate risk of it being brought onto balance sheet. Now, insofar as due diligence is concerned, let's not forget that the member, again, urged me not to embark on a thorough process of due diligence, but it is my belief that this has demonstrated the value of due diligence. I am seeking agreement from the heads of the Valleys Development Company and the consultants who carried out the due diligence to publish a summary document of the documents. However, the fit and proper persons test and also legal due diligence will be excluded from the publication. As soon as I have that agreement from the consultants and the heads of the Valleys Development Company, I will move forward with publishing that document, and I will place it in the Assembly library. But I would urge the member as well, and all members who are critical of government today, of me today, of the developers today, to now work constructively to ensure that the technology park, the £100 million that we're going to be investing in it and in the skills of the people within the heads of the Valleys area, are a success. We need to make sure that the technology park utilises new and emerging technologies, that it employs people closer to their homes and delivers the sort of prosperity that I think we all wish to see in the Valleys communities.